What's going on, everyone? Jordan Pyle here with Pyle Residential at Keller Williams, Chicago, Lincoln Park. It is May 7th. It is crazy how fast this year is flying by, but I know a lot of you guys are out in the market. This is a very popular time of year for a lot of people to be moving around. So I wanted to provide you with a little bit of an educational video about how to survive a bidding war in a seller's market or a seller-driven market here in Chicago, which is a very local trend, but it's also more of a macro trend as well. Most markets around the country are suffering from inventory shortage. So there are a lot more buyers in the market than there are properties. And as a lot of you are finding out, this makes purchasing a property a little bit trickier. So I wanted to talk about 5 things that will help bulletproof your offer to make sure that you can win in a multiple bid situation. First, number 1 is the obvious, but it may not be so obvious to some people, is first off, you got to select an agent that knows the market, that knows his colleagues, and that is going to fight for you to make sure that your offer is presented in the best light to that seller. So before trying to do this all on your own, definitely hire a professional. On the buy side of the transaction, it's completely free to you. So first off, pick someone like myself to help navigate you through those waters, because it is a little bit more tricky out there in a seller-dominated market. Number 2, make sure you are definitely pre-approved for a loan. So when you make that initial offer, the seller is going to be not necessarily requiring, but they're going to be looking for your pre-approval offer, stating that you can afford the property that you're offering on, to make sure that he doesn't risk losing the buyer due to them not being able to obtain financing, wasting time having to go back on the market, and now being 30 to 45 days out from when they wish they would have been under contract so that they could close at their desired time frame. The number 3 kind of factor that I would like you guys to think about is, a lot of people, any buyer just kind of has a natural assumption that they're going to be able to go into a home purchase and they're going to be able to negotiate down off the list price. However, in a competitive market like we have right now, where there are multiple buyers all bidding on one property, truthfully, between you and I, a strategy that I use with my sellers actually is to price the property just a little bit lower than fair market value, so that we can drive as many people through the door and then ultimately end up with an offer that's either at listing price or even a little bit higher than listing price. So don't think that in this market, it's all depending on the actual property and the situation at hand, but the average property that a lot of people are bidding on, that agent and that seller are actually pricing it a little bit lower on purpose. So with that being said, don't feel the fear of necessarily overpaying for a property by paying full ask or maybe even a little bit more. Your agent that you hire should be adept enough with the market to know exactly what the value or the fair market value of that particular property is. And if you do have to pay full ask or a little bit more to be able to secure the property so that you can get into your new home by summer, then maybe that is worth your time and your money. Another thing that you can do, this starts to get a little bit hit or miss depending on the situation at hand, but you can drop unnecessary contingencies. So sometimes I'll see people drop, for example, they'll drop their inspection contingency. I don't necessarily always recommend this, as you don't want to put yourself in a position where you have a ton of deferred cost liability after you close on a property. But if you're able to float and buy a property with cash, in the event that you cannot obtain a mortgage, sometimes I see people dropping the appraisal contingency or dropping their mortgage contingency. So these are a few different things. You can also increase your earnest money to show that seller that you have a little bit more skin in the game and that you're there to see that transaction through to its closing. Outside of that, putting more money down is always good. Cash is always king, even though a lot of these mortgages now are closing within 30 to 45 days. The stronger the buyer and the more cash they have or the more money they're putting down is going to look better in the seller's eyes. Last thing is, make sure, this goes back to the agent again, but number 5 is make sure that you have good rapport with the listing agent from the very first showing all the way up until the point of making that offer. So hire an agent that is very likable, that knows a lot of agents, they're well connected in the broker community, because when it comes down to a seller choosing your offer or another offer that's very similar, oftentimes that agent is going to work with the buyer's agent, who they know is not going to mess around, and they're actually going to get the deal to the closing table. So those are the 5 main tactics that I would say that can help bulletproof your offer in a competitive market. so that you're going in and you're securing the property of your dreams. So if you have any other questions, I'm at the 5-minute mark. Feel free to reach out, call me, email me, text me anytime. Happy to sit down with you, talk about your needs, and to discover what may be the best option for you this year. Call me with any questions, or if you know anyone that's in the market, have them give me a buzz. I'm here to be a resource for you. Talk to you soon. Just call JP.